Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Season 2, Episode 5, titled Shellacne. Now, this episode I really enjoyed because it brought in some characters that I've been waiting to see this season, and mostly it was Baxter Stockman more than anyone. But unfortunately, I didn't feel like he got enough coverage in this episode, and it wasn't exactly what I thought, or what I was hoping for. Because in a previous episode, there was a sign that said, like, Stockman Industries or something like that. And I was hoping that although Baxter hadn't really been, known to the other characters, maybe he'd started, some sort of company where he was doing, all sorts of crazy things. And so he was a much more powerful character after, the last episode we got to see him, which was when he trapped everybody. And, he's in the giant mech suit, or, he's controlling a giant, robot and stuff. I was hoping he'd have, some amazing technology or like some crazy weapons and stuff. And unfortunately, it was just, him still being Baxter Stockman. And, it was just him releasing Mousers and, basically being the pawn for everybody else. But I was glad to see him, glad to see Zever. And, excuse me, since I can't remember his real name, I think it's like, I think it's Brad. We got Brad, who had an amazing transformation in this episode, and he went from Dog Pound to Razar, as Mikey called him, and it was really cool to see that transformation because I had no idea what was going to happen to him, when he fell in, and I wasn't expecting that in the episode at all because when Mikey tells him don't attack him and stuff because he's on the weak board, I figured he'd hit it and he'd fall to the ground and he'd basically lose the fight. But instead, it was a lot better than that, and he falls into mutagen, and he mutates again. And instead of a dog, now he's like this super skinny, super powerful wolf character, which is a real upgrade for him, and it's really cool. And he feels like he's back to his good form. He's like he said, I feel like a ninja again. So it was cool to see that. And he has like, I'm pretty sure that those were steel claws and not just bone, which kind of doesn't make any sense to me, but it looked amazing, so I didn't care. But it was cool to see him. He's a lot more powerful. He'll be a lot deadlier now. I was also hoping, before that happened, I was hoping that Stockman would turn the guys back human because I like them as human characters, especially Zevra. Like, I really like Zevra as a character, and I thought his, fighting style was really cool. But, he's still just a fish, so maybe he will be turned human, and, Bradley will basically feel like, I'm in like top condition. I might not be human anymore, but I'm really, really powerful, and there might not be a cure, for people to go back to normal yet anyway, which, Donnie hasn't figured it out. I'm sure Stockman hasn't, because why would he really be looking for one? But even if one is found, I don't think Brad will be able to turn back because he's been mutated twice. So we'll have to see how that plays out, but I really loved his inclusion, or basically his transformation in this episode. So I'm going to enjoy seeing more fights between the turtles and him and whoever he might end up fighting later on. But loved his transformation. Just loved having those characters in there. Mikey being the main focus was pretty good because that's always just funny. But in this one, it was a little bit more serious. It was still really funny. But when Mikey goes off on his own to find Stockman, I enjoyed that part because he's like, I'm going through all this crap. You guys are supposed to help me, but you still don't listen to like my one little bit of advice. So he goes off on his own, and like he leaves the sewer, and it was he was sad and stuff. It sounded funny to me just because of the voice actor, and if you know that voice actor, you heard him play a bunch of different characters. So whenever he does like a high pitched voice, it's never sad to me. It's just funny, but it was meant to be sad, and I enjoyed the scene. But he goes off on his own. And he's got all the pimples, which just got super gross by the end of the episode. Like when it was on his back, it was nasty, and I was like, not a big deal. And then it was just like hanging off his eyes and stuff. It looked really nasty, but it gets cleaned up in the end, which is nice. But I really enjoyed seeing Mikey have his own little moment. And we also got to see him use like the chain from the nunchucks. It was like super long in this episode, which I thought was just random and funny because normally, he'll throw it out and it'll have like the blade on the end, and he'll try to catch something or whatever. And I love when he tried to pick up the centrifuge, and he like poked Brad in the back, and it was just like nothing to him, so he just like scratched his shoulder. But it was cool to see him fight and have his own moment in the episode, which was really cool. And the ending fight itself, when all the turtles were together, even though they kind of just got beat up, I think it was still a really great fight because it was cool to see that happen. And also, the beginning of the episode when the guys are like, they're almost fighting breakfast. I love that scene because they're trying to like do all this cool stuff and make breakfast, and they just like destroy everything. And like Raph like squeezes the orange juice and like blinds Donnie and stuff. And I just love that because that was really funny. But the whole episode was really really good. It didn't have a main storyline, but it did bring in characters that we know from last season, and it's gonna lead to obviously the main story because Karai went and sent Brad and Zebra to get Baxter. So she wants him to basically control the foot ninjas who are now robots. So it'd be cool to see how that plays out because although he is that obviously that scared character, we've seen him sort of step up to the plate of being an actual villain last season. So he could try to do that again and say, I'll work for you, Karai and Shredder. And then, who knows, they'll do something, or maybe he'll just have it in the back of his head the whole time. I can turn these robots on them, at any second. So maybe he'll be trying to do that, and that'll come out in the season finale or something like that. But love this episode. Excited to see, where they go now that they have Baxter back. And also one of my favorite things about it is the reference they make to the old, comic books and the old Ninja Turtles cartoon when Brad threatens Baxter and he puts the thing around his neck with the mutagen in it. He says, if you double cross us, we'll see what you turn into. And he says, I bet it'll be like a lowly insect or something. And in the original, or in the old cartoon, he turns into a fly. So it was cool to see, to hear that reference. And I was kind of hoping that they would turn him into a fly because he actually, in the old cartoons, and I'm sure in the comics too, he's the same character all the time. He's just really, really weak. But when he was turned into the fly, like in the old cartoon, he was stronger than everyone, but he was still mentally the same character. So it kind of, like, he was an amazing fighter. Like, he could beat the turtles. He could even beat Shredder and his minions and stuff. And then Shredder kind of just played him mentally, and that's how he ended up screwing up. So it would be cool to see that done in this show because I think it's written a lot better because it's not super campy like the old one. But even that show, for being super campy, did that portion really, really well. So I'd love to see that, in this episode or in this series of Ninja Turtles. But love the episode so far. Excited to see where it goes. Can't wait to see, Razar come back, I guess. And I'm just excited to see what they do with Zebra, if they turn him human or if, he mutates twice, who knows. But definitely excited that they brought the characters in. It's definitely going to go back. I think next week we might even get Shredder coming back because they've kind of, they introduced Casey. They brought, all the characters we know in so far. And unless they introduce someone else new, I think they're going to be bringing Shredder back. And possibly the Krang, I hope, because I'd love to hear some of their silly dialogue. But comment below, let me know what you thought of this episode. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. Are you excited? Do you love Brad's new transformation? Do you wish they turned human instead? Comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.